Hello. I am currently doing a series on where God might stand with our ADHD, because we know that us people with ADHD can live a most wonderfully colourful life. We can have both successes and what society deems as failures. We internalize messages that get sent to us through the school system or even through various systems in society. Even from our own parents, where they haven't meant to make us feel terrible about the thing we did. They're just trying to help us to become contributing members of society, but then we can still internalize messages that we're not wise, we're not smart, and that instead we're impulsive, irrational, and irresponsible. So in the first video, I talked about Peter and his impulsivity with having cut off the servant's ear when he was trying to, defend Jesus. And today I want to talk about a person in the Bible who exhibited the symptom of overwhelm and the desire for freedom and the desire to escape. And his name is Jonah. This is a very popular story. Even people who haven't been brought up in church would know this story, because it's all about Jonah, who said no to God, said, I ain't doing what you're telling me to do. I am running away. And he does. He runs away and gets thrown into the ocean and gets swallowed up by a big fish. We don't know what kind of fish. The Bible doesn't tell us, but it's a pretty miraculous kind of a story, because he remains alive inside the fish. But that's not the discussion that I'm going to have today. The discussion I want to have today is about Jonah actually feeling this overwhelm. Now, we don't know anything about Jonah. We don't know what his life is like. I don't know if he's a dad, if he's a family man, or if he's just a single guy. I don't know if he's an old guy. I don't know if he's a young guy. But we do know that at the point that God has asked him to do something, it's like a pretty big mission, actually. But regardless, he feels overwhelmed. And what does he do? He runs away. So let's go to Jonah chapter 1, and we're going to read verses 1 to 5. The story goes like this. The word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. That's pretty violent when you think about it. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own god, and they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. So Jonah was asked pretty much to go to a town like the city of Nineveh. I'm guessing he doesn't live in Nineveh. I'm guessing he's got to make this big trip. We don't know how big it is. But he's gone, nah, I can't do that. I've got enough going on in my life. And sometimes we feel overwhelmed too. In fact, those of us with ADHD or even ASD, we can feel really overwhelmed, and we can feel overwhelmed quite easily. I once met a lady with ADHD. So she was providing a service to me. We got chatting, and we kind of bonded over the fact that we were both ADHD. But she said to me, but what did she say? She said something like, but don't you run away? Like, I always run away. I just book weekend getaways all the time because I just can't do it, and I just have to go away. So she actually went away something like once a month because she just felt the need to just go and just disconnect from life. I also read a book about an author who really like, she says she knows she's got ADHD and other things, and she says that she loves her bushwalks, that she has to spend one full day per week just going for a big long hike, a big long bushwalk. And that's because of the overwhelm, and I feel that that overwhelm makes us want to escape. I don't really do either of those things, but I do definitely relate because I wake up probably about that once a week where I'll just wake up and go, today is going to be a nothing day. To me, those nothing days means that I'm literally taking the day off. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing any chores. I'm not running any errands. I'm not doing any of my work. And I can, my daughter's old enough now, I can say to her, you know what? I need you to do your own schoolwork today because I need a day off. And I will just laze around, for lack of a better word, just chill and do whatever comes to mind. I might just sit in the sunshine reading a novel, or I might go for a walk. I might take my dog for a wash. Just do things that I really enjoy. I might just scroll on my phone all day if that's what comes to me. And that's what we tend to do. That's a form of escaping too. But here, okay, back to the story of Jonah. He literally went down to his local port to get across to the next port because he's running away. And it's funny how the Bible actually says he is fleeing from God. Like, it's so funny because I guess he didn't understand that God is kind of everywhere. You can't actually run away from God. God is here right now. Like, God is like the sun, or God is like gravity, or God is like, like the ground beneath our feet. It's just there. God is just there. So he didn't quite understand that, and so he's running away from God. Now let's have a chat about what God did with this. What did God do? Did he say, Jonah, stop being silly, get back out of that boat and come here right now? You need to be a contributing member of society, and you better do what I've asked you to do already. Did God do that? No, God did not do that. Let's find out what he did. Well, we kind of already read the story. But in verse 4, it says, then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. So it's interesting because God really is in charge of the elements, right? He really is. I can see a strong breeze outside my window at the moment, and I know that that's God. Nothing happens on earth that God does not allow to a certain point. That is really hard to wrap your head around, especially when you see really bad stuff happen on earth, or people just not being very nice, and things like that. But that's a whole other discussion for another time. So what did God do? God didn't call Jonah to kind of berate him or put him down or anything. He's just allowed a certain consequence. He wants to teach and guide Jonah towards a lesson. And so what ends up happening is they throw out they throw out all the cargo to lighten the ship, and then eventually the men realize that's not going to help. They realize, because they believe in other gods, so they have some kind of belief system themselves, and they say somebody must have angered one of the gods because this storm isn't stopping. And so Jonah then goes up to them and reveals to them, hey, guys, I think it's me. I've run away from Almighty God. I'm trying to get away from him. And they were like, shock, horror, how dare you? How dare you, like, you've done what type thing? They're like, we need to get you out. We're not going to face Almighty God. So these other guys, it becomes clear when you read the story because of their reaction that they, although they believe in their own gods, they know that Almighty God is the God of gods. And they're like, we need you off this boat. So they throw Jonah overboard, not to lighten the ship anymore. They've already done that, but because they don't want to deal. They don't want to deal with Almighty God. So sometimes when we're feeling overwhelmed and we run away, or we take a day off, like I do, that does have its consequences, and we just have to deal with them. I know the lady that was telling me that she goes away every few weeks, she was saying to me, I know my partner doesn't like it because I'm just upping and leaving all the time, but oh well, I need my time. And it's true, she does need her time, but then what's the consequence of that? It's just that she has to, I guess, have that consequence with her partner, maybe learn a little bit of communication, like them two have to learn how they're going to communicate regarding each of their needs. The partner might have to learn that it is something that she needs for her to feel like she can do life for the following few weeks, and that it's not to take it personally and things like that. I know that when I take a day off, things just don't get done. If I'm having a day off, things aren't getting done. The washing's not getting done. The dishes aren't getting done. Maybe I've even had to cancel on someone because I'm just not up for meeting up with them. But then in my mind, I'm like, well, I better catch up with that person, and that sort of thing. Now, the story of Jonah, I really love the story of Jonah because the story keeps going and he shows us a moment of emotional dysregulation. Okay, so it doesn't stop there. God doesn't just send a consequence and then that's the end of the story. He doesn't just send a storm and then Jonah goes, oh, well, thank you for the storm, God. What ends up happening is Jonah is then saved from inside the fish, gets thrown back out onto land. So all of this, okay, I realize to someone who's never heard this story, it can sound a bit far-fetched, like how on earth did he end up inside a fish? How is he still alive? How is he thrown onto the shore by a fish? This is the thing about God, right? He is God. He can make anything happen. If he needs you alive inside a fish for 3 days, he will keep you alive inside a fish for 3 days. That's just how it is. So moving on, we've got Jonah back on the ground, and he goes to Nineveh after all and tells the people, hey guys, God is angry at you. If you don't change your ways, he's going to destroy this whole city. And then God doesn't destroy the whole city because the people actually listened and went, oh, we kind of need to pull ourselves together and not do these bad things anymore. They all agree to change their ways and they call out to God and ask for forgiveness, and they promise to make changes. And so God does not destroy the city. So let's go to Jonah chapter 4 from verse 1 onwards. It goes like this. Jonah was not happy that God saved the city. Jonah became angry. He complained to the Lord and said, Lord, I knew this would happen. I was in my own country and you told me to come here. At that time, I knew you would forgive the people of this evil city. So I decided to run away to Tarshish. I knew that you are a kind God. I knew that you show mercy and don't want to punish people. I knew that you are kind, and if these people stopped sinning, you would change your plans to destroy them. So now, Lord, just kill me. It is better for me to die than to live. So he's not only angry, He is very dysregulated, right? He's like so angry. He's like, I may as well just die. And how many times do we feel so angry and so out of control to the point where we just lose ourselves in the moment and say things we don't want to say, do things we don't want to do, and end up having to apologize to everyone who witnessed the most ugliest side of ourselves? Like, how many times do we do that? And how often? Yeah, I'm no saint. My hubby certainly knows the best and the worst of me, and he loves me anyway. So, anyways, how does God react to Jonah? Because God is God, right? Like, God can thunder and storm himself. He can just lightly sit on a mountain and the whole mountain shakes. So how's he going to deal with this angry little person? Let's find out. Verse 4, then the Lord said, do you think it is right for you to be angry? I just love that God is like, just asks, poses a question, a question to ponder on. And I guess he says the same thing to us. Do you think it is right for you to be angry? That's something for us to think about. Then verse 5, Jonah went out of the city to a place near the city on the east side. He made a shelter for himself and sat there in the shade, waiting to see what would happen to the city. So I guess in a way he's still expecting that God's going to send destruction. The Lord made a gourd plant grow quickly over Jonah. This made a cool place for Jonah to sit and helped him to be more comfortable. He was very happy because of this plant. That is hilarious. Here's this angry little man, so angry at God, but God said, oh, I'm going to grow a tree to help you. Like, he's still with us, even in our anger, even in our emotional dysregulation. God is there with us, still looking after us, still helping us, still just supporting us in some way. Verse 7, the next morning, God sent a worm to eat part of the plant. The worm began eating the plant and the plant died. Okay, so God gives and God takes away. Verse 8, after the sun was high in the sky, God caused a hot east wind to blow. The sun became very hot on Jonah's head, and he became very weak. He asked God to let him die. So once again, he's suicidal. Like, he's really lost his bearings on life at this point. It's, it kind of can be a little bit funny depending how you're reading the story, but also let's take a moment. This is actually pretty serious for this person. He's emotionally dysregulated. He's really angry. He just wants to die. He's given up on life. He's probably feeling let down by God as well, because God said, if you do this for me, I'm going to destroy the city, and then he doesn't. So Jonah's like going, what on earth? Like why? Like, who even are you? You said you would do this thing and now you're not going to do it. So, and now he's really like, he's suicidal. He's like, be done with me, God. So he became very weak. He asked God to let him die. He said, it is better for me to die than to live. Let's see what God says to us. Because whatever he says to Jonah, he says to us, okay? Verse 9, but God said to Jonah, do you think it is right for you to be angry because this plant died? Jonah answered, yes, it is right for me to be angry. I'm angry enough to die. And the Lord said, you did nothing for that plant. You did not make it grow. Oh my goodness, it is so funny. Okay, so first of all, God says it's not right for us to be angry. He still doesn't bring down Jonah for it though. He's still not casting fire and brimstone upon him. He's just trying to reason with him. He's trying to help him see, like, that Jonah's, I guess, reaction or feelings and emotions are probably not the right way to go about things at that point. So God, first of all, God says it's not right for us to be angry or emotionally dysregulated. It's a funny thing, because isn't it interesting that God doesn't say, hey, Jonah, you're wrong. God doesn't actually deal with us like that. He just gets us to think about things first. The other thing I notice is that God doesn't actually punish Jonah for his emotional dysregulation. He doesn't. He could have said, oh, you terrible sinner, I am going to do away with you because I can. But we don't have that kind of God. God is not like that. Like, much to a lot of people's disappointment, I think, God is not like that. And that can give us, those of us who want to get to know God and want to love him for who he actually is, that can give us a lot of peace, knowing that he's not out to just do away with us. So God instead took the time to try and reason with Jonah, like I said before, and to bring understanding to him. And that's what he does for us. And then ultimately, God said, why are you angry about this tree? You didn't even make it grow. And I think that what the lesson there is, that whatever we do get angry and emotionally dysregulated about, it's possibly not even up to us. That thing we're angry about, it's probably usually not up to us, and not up to us to control, not up to us to bring about or take away in the first place, right? Could it be that whatever we do get angry about, God himself has brought about to teach us and to guide us, and to help us grow? I think that in that sense, with both of these two symptoms of ADHD here that I've seen in this story, first of all, overwhelm, second of all, emotional dysregulation, God just works with us. He's chatting to us all the time, helping us to just gain wisdom. He doesn't just cast us aside, and he doesn't tear us down for it. He's just always working with us. And that is what God can do with our ADHD. The parts of ADHD that let us down, God is working with us. He's filling the gaps. He's helping us to just gain wisdom from all the little and big things that we're dealing with, and that we're feeling overwhelmed by, and that we're emotionally dysregulated about. So yeah. All right, I'll leave that with you today. Enjoy. Bye.